Hey Harmonizers, here's a fun update with Stewie the Mustang. I'm going to show you guys a more up-to-date video of all the stuff he's doing with Ryan, who's the one working with him. So she's one of our coaches at the farm that really wanted to try working with a Mustang. So she took over working with Stewie, but of course has a busy schedule, lots of things up and down. So sometimes he'll go a week or two without having a training session, and then he'll be having some sessions, a couple days in a row. It's a little hit and miss. And it's really nice because this particular video was filmed after he had, I believe it was 2 weeks without seeing Ryan. And this is actually a pretty big deal because Mustangs, sometimes if you leave them for several weeks, they can kind of regress a little bit and become a little bit more skittish, or a little bit more like, what do you mean I need to interact with the humans? But he was really happy to see Ryan and get some attention. And yes, I did speed up this video here so that way you could still see a bunch of him getting groomed without making the video too ridiculously long. And the grooming, like being touched all over, going really, really well, picking up his feet. And he even had his first hoof trim, and that went really well. So he's doing great with picking up his feet, which is fantastic. Also another, big milestone for Mustangs, because it means that they're really trusting humans a lot more and just being more brave and confident with being a domestic horse. So he's definitely really turned that corner, because when he came, he was a feral horse and had been pulled out of the wild, and it's a whole lot for them to learn. And even just seeing the setup here being on the cross ties, and there's saddles and blankets on the side, there's somebody else with the horse on the other side doing their grooming and things like that. So just even having that commotion and that busyness is all something that they need to get used to, and it's all part of the taming and gentling process, which for him at this point is roughly 6 months-ish into coming from the holding pens and being here in a domestic life. And this is what he's looking like roughly 6 months later. And I'll show you guys a little clip of him when he was still feral. So this is him in the holding pens out in Tennessee, where we picked him up from. So you can see what he looked like before. And then this is him now, and we measured him with the stick to see how tall he is. And he measures just under 14.2. So he is technically a large pony, and which is probably a good thing, because then it gives him more options for what he's going to progress to do later in life and be able to do the pony classes, which is kind of fun. Who knows? He could be an adorable little hunter. And this is him getting the saddle pad and the surcingle. And this is also a really big thing because he's only ever worn this, Ryan said, one time before this session. And because we use positive reinforcement and she's really patient with him, then it progressed really quickly. And this is only his second time having it be put on. And he doesn't care. He's just standing there. I'm going to speed up the footage for you because it does take a little bit of time to do up the girth. But you'll see she goes back and forth a fair bit, tightens it up, and he's doing really well. He does wear a blanket outside. So with the colder weather and with him having a thinner coat, he definitely was wearing his blanket to keep him warm. So he is used to having something go on and have buckle straps done up underneath his belly that are different from a surcingle. But a surcingle is tight right around the girth line, which helps prepare them for riding and for a saddle. And he's doing really well with that. So this is him coming into the arena and just going out and doing a few of the obstacles and different things that we have set up around in the arena. And you can see he tends to be more of kind of a slow thinker. Like he's slow and cautious, and he kind of thinks about what's going on there. And even though he kind of knocked that over with his foot there, he didn't have any big reaction. But I love how he's such a puzzle solver. You could see how he thought about his options there and then carefully goes over. And that's just a little bit of the way he is. Mustangs come with a lot of different types of backgrounds or breedings, where some horses tend to have more of a quarter horse pedigree in their blood. Some of them are a little bit more Spanish. There's some with more draft, all sorts of different things. Some even with more like Arab type pedigree. And they all have different ways of thinking and processing. Some tend to be more flighty and some tend to be slower thinkers. And I would classify him as a slow thinker. He did that jump pretty cutely there. And you'll see that in a couple more examples as we go through the video here. And this is him solving a puzzle of Touch the Pylon, which is really cute. He loves to play different games and figure out different requests that you're asking him to do, which is very fun to just see how his brain works a little bit. And this is him being asked to run and jump over the noodles, and you'll get to see his slow thinking mind where he's like, oh, I'm just gonna, think about this as I go over, and oh, I did it, which is a really nice thing to have in terms of when you're training a horse, because they tend to slow down and think rather than explode and be really, really fast. So here's Ryan pushing a barrel out of the way and then asking him to pick up his walk and go over the noodles again. And he actually does do a tiny little bit of trot there. And then of course stops and gets his little cookie. He loves working for the cookies and figuring out things. And what we know about positive reinforcement using cookies with horses, it could be something different from cookies as well. It could be scratches and things like that, but it needs to be something the horse likes, is that research shows that it really does boost their motivation and how quickly they learn different tasks. And it's one of the reasons why, even though Ryan has, other jobs and other commitments and things like that, so she'll miss, a week here or 2 weeks there of seeing him, he still progresses. And part of that is because of using the positive reinforcement. So there was another really great example of him being asked to lunge over the jump instead of be led over the jump, and he had to slow down and think about it. So another example of him being what I call a slow thinker, where he wants to process what's happening. And then there you could see he actually did trot over the little jump, of course, slowly. And some horses are different. They want to hurry up and get things over with, so they would really quickly jump over it or something like that. And so some people might watch this and think, oh, maybe he's not going to be a good jumper. But for me, I think it depends on the horse's confidence. So as they do more and they get confident in what they're doing and sure of themselves, then you start to really see who's going to be naturally a good jumper or who enjoys it. Because we definitely have to give ourselves time as well as the horse time to figure out what it is that they're being asked to do. So this is him lunging to the left and gives you a little bit of a different perspective. And you'll notice in the video that what I'm showing you is him doing walk trot. And this is a good example of why, because when he's trotting, you can see he's still a little bit tight in his gait, and he pauses every so often, like when he kind of pauses there and looks. That's him kind of thinking like, is this good enough? Is this enough trot? And I consider lunging Mustangs one of the harder things to do, especially when you're not in a round pen and you're not just kind of running them around the outside of the rail, because they can start to perceive it as being chased. So it's much better to do a little bit, give them a cookie, let them lick and chew afterwards, versus getting them to just go the whole time, because that provokes them into just, run and get running, which is not a thinking frame of mind. Then it can turn them into be a little bit more flighty, because you're just saying go the whole time. And here Ryan's showing his some of the different movements he knows. So that was a little bit of a backup, and then this is moving his hips. Of course, he's a little bit distracted looking at me filming, because he's like, wait, what a second, you're asking me to do something over there, but there's a human over here. And it's good though, because you get to see a little bit of his personality and how he's still what we would consider green for his groundwork. Like he can be distracted or have some sticky moments, things like that. But what we love about him is that he doesn't do anything really scary. Like he's a pretty easy Mustang to work with, or easier horse to work with, because he's not trying to do anything defensive or angry. There's no stomping, biting, kicking at us or anything like that. And part of that is his personality and his nature, that he's a thinker and he's observing and all of those pieces. But also a big part of it is how we have done our training, that we're very patient with him, we're very rewarding with him, we allow him time to think, we repeat a task many times until he's comfortable moving to the next level. This here, Ryan's just showing how she does a bunch of different confidence building things. Like this is just dragging the long lead rope, or it's also called a lunge line there, where she's just dragging it and getting him used to something dragging on the ground. And an example of not moving on to the next thing until the horse is relaxed would be like would be an example of making sure that he's comfortable with it before going on, but also how when it comes to the lunging that we're just working him with the walk trot, and once he's really relaxed and comfortable with the trot, then we'll try pushing to ask for the canter. When it comes to working with horses or even with people, if they're tense and nervous and feeling challenged about something new that they're learning, things blow up when you ask them for even more and you don't recognize that it's hard for them. So it's important to recognize when they're saying, like, this is, something that I'm really thinking about, or this is a little bit worrisome.
Good, that was a nice cross.
This here is just her moving his shoulders a little bit, doing a little bit of crossing his legs work. It's super cute because you can see him look for his little cookie afterwards, and he's thinking, is that cookie worthy? And I love that because positive reinforcement definitely speeds training because they're thinking, is this okay? And here's an example of how using positive reinforcement can speed training. So this is him getting on a pedestal, which he has done before with 2 feet. And then this particular session, he is being asked to put all 4 feet on a pedestal for the first time. And I've sped this footage up because it, otherwise it's going to make for a very long video. And you can also see how it's patience. He nearly took his one little foot off, and Ryan gently put it back on. And then she was able to block him and give him his cookie there with all 4 feet on. So that was his first time learning 4 feet on a pedestal, and just a little bit of patience and trying to show him what it was that we wanted, giving him a cookie afterwards. And he feels very proud of himself. He's like, look at me. I got all 4 feet on a pedestal, and if I stay here longer, I'll probably get more cookies. So I want to do more of it. So it also shows you how that positive reinforcement really does work, because if you get a paycheck, you're more likely to show up and want to do more. Here's just a little clip of showing that he's really good even with opening his lips there, which can be good for just healthcare in general. And then this is getting his blanket put on. I sped up the footage as well, just so that way you could see how calmly he stands, and he's very tolerant for that, which is a great thing to be able to do. It takes a little bit of time. And here is some super cool footage. This is when the 50-foot tarp was set up for other horses that were practicing for a demo thing they were doing. And why not try to bring Stewie over the big giant tarp? It's huge and it crinkles under their feet. This can be such a hard task, even for super well-trained show horses. They could find this really overwhelming. And you can see he kind of sniffs at it, checks it out a little bit, but it's pretty easy to just get him to walk across it. And he's probably just thinking, hey, if I go across this thing, are you going to give me some more cookies? Which is great because he doesn't even look at it as a thing to be scared of. He just looks at it as an opportunity to get that cookie at the end, which to me, I would much rather have than a horse being spooky. And he was even great at trotting over it. So all in all, he's doing really well. Let me know what you guys are most impressed with in the comments. Thanks for watching.
Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.